Hey guys, in this month's top 5, I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite book couples from 2020. So I've been doing this for the last several years. Every February, since it's the month of Valentine's Day, I always go through my favorite book couples that I read in the previous year. So of course that would be the year of 2020. So yeah, let's get going, guys. I managed to find 5 couples that I particularly enjoyed last year. I had to cut a few out. I was kind of a little disappointed. I was like, I have to cut it down to 5. I'll give like an honorable mention to a couple that didn't make this list this year. For instance, I really enjoyed the narrator, since she has no name, the narrator and Maxim de Winter from Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I love them, but I had to cut them from this list. And I also really enjoyed Jesus and Aaron from The Walking Dead graphic novel series by Robert Kirkman. They about made this list. I ended up kind of cutting them as well. So yeah, those are some honorable mentions for some couples. So yeah, what are my top 5, you guys? At number 5, Bryce and Hunt from the Crescent City series, book number 1 by Sarah J. Maas. I really loved Bryce and Hunt. What you need to know about the series Crescent City, right now there's only 1 book so far. It's going to be like a trilogy if I'm not mistaken. What you need to know is that it takes place in like a fantasy world, but like a really high-tech fantasy world, because they still have like cars and phones and like technology and stuff like that, but it takes place in a fantasy setting. And yeah, you have fairies and mermaids and werewolves and vampires and angels and kind of things like that. It's almost kind of similar to something like the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare, if I had to compare it to something. But yeah, the characters of Hunt and Bryce, I really loved their dynamic together. Through a series of events, they're kind of thrown together to investigate like a murder investigation, essentially. They kind of also unravel some shady drug dealings going on. Our main heroine, Bryce, she is half human, half fae, and then Hunt is like a fallen angel, and he's like really kind of dark and brooding and whatnot. It's a Sarah J. Maas book, that's what you're going to expect. But yeah, I loved Bryce and Hunt together. They had such a great, unique relationship, because they're kind of pretty much forced together to investigate this murder investigation. They don't initially get along, they don't like each other, they kind of get on each other's nerves, but it's like they quickly build up this really great banter, and they're able to kind of tease each other, and it eventually kind of leads to this great possibility of a future romance that will develop between them, because you start to get like these inklings of a romance like as the novel is kind of concluding, essentially. But yes, Sarah J. Maas kind of just leaves enough there to tease you and to keep you wanting more, to be like, hey, come back for book 2, because there's definitely going to be more with these two. So yeah, Hunt and Bryce at number 5. I love them, and yeah, super sexy, you guys, super sexy. Whew. At number 4, believe it or not, I put Mexican Gothic on this list, you guys. Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, I believe. Yes, I didn't write it down. I think I got that right. The characters in question, I'm still trying to figure out how her name is pronounced. Is it Naomi, something like that? I think it's like Nomi. Nomi and Francis. Okay, you guys, this is what you gotta know about Mexican Gothic, because it is a bizarre, weird freaking book, but it is so great, and it just really twists the Gothic literature genre on its head in some really unique and interesting, kind of flavorful ways, if you will. So our main character, Nomi, she receives a very urgent letter from her cousin. Her cousin is living in the Mexican countryside with her husband, and so her cousin is saying, hey, I think my husband wants to kill me. So Nomi is like, okay, I'm coming, I'm gonna come rescue you and save you, see what's going on. So when she does get down to the Mexican countryside, Nomi is just just greeted with this really ancient, decrepit house that's like falling apart. It's moldy and rotten. And yet the family who live in this ancestral home, they are just even weirder and bizarre. And there's definitely something strange going on that Nomi can't quite figure out. So yeah, one of the members of this really strange family, his name is Francis. The thing is, Francis is like the most normal of the family. He's really kind of sweet and innocent and naive. But yeah, he knows things that he's not sharing with Nomi, obviously, just yet. So it's kind of her thing over the course of the novel to unravel these clues and mysteries and try to, you know, get Francis to open up to her. And I did. I really love the relationship between Nomi and Francis in Mexican Gothic. Yeah, guys, it kind of just came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it, but I really love their relationship. They have to learn to trust one another. That's kind of a big thing with this novel, is the two of them learn to trust one another and, you know, start to reveal things. And I think what I also kind of weirdly liked about their relationship, like I said, Mexican Gothic is like this weird reversal of the Gothic literature genre, where you typically have like your heroine and your hero. But in the case of Mexican Gothic, Nomi is not your standard kind of damsel in distress, if you will. She is kind of the more hero role, and then Francis almost takes more of that damsel in distress role, if you will. And I really like that role reversal. With Nomi being the kind of the stronger character, having to save the male character and whatnot. But I loved their relationship. It was just really different and unique. And I was just kind of rooting for the two of them, like, okay, there's some crazy stuff going on in this house. I need the two of them to escape this house pronto. Please, no one die. So yeah, I love them. Anybody else kind of just weirdly, wildly obsessed with Nomi and Francis? Is it just me? At number 3, Fergus and Marley from Diana Gabaldon's A Breath of Snow and Ashes. What is this, like book 6 in the series? I'm kind of slowly losing count of what number these books are, you guys. Every year when I do this list, I've always included somebody from Outlander. I've always either included our main characters, Claire and Jamie, or I've incorporated Roger and Brianna. So this year I was like, you know what? I always put the same Outlander couples on this list. I'm gonna branch out and put a different couple on here. So I decided to go with Fergus and Marley. Just something about the two of them in particular in this book just really stood out to me. I think their relationship is just really fleshed out in some really great ways that kind of just really put, you know, really tested them as characters and really tested their relationship. So yeah, what you need to know about the Outlander series in general. We do follow a woman named Claire who's like a time traveler. She travels back to the 1700s, and the first couple books take place in Scotland and France, and then eventually the series winds up in America. So yeah, that's where we're at in this particular book in the series. We're in America, in North Carolina, and this definitely puts a lot of strain on relationships in the books, obviously. But yeah, Fergus and Marley. Fergus, he used to be, when we first were introduced to him back in like book 2, he was like a little boy, kind of stuck at a house of ill repute, if you will, with a bunch of prostitutes and whatnot. But yeah, he was kind of stuck in a place like that, and then until Jamie, our leading hero, kind of rescued him from all of that and took him away. And yeah, eventually over the course of the books, Fergus eventually meets Marley. Marley is like the daughter of Claire's like rival and whatnot. So I love this dynamic between Marley and Claire initially. But yeah, Fergus and Marley, they're just really perfect for each other. It's like you would almost think they wouldn't work. It's like Fergus is French, Marley is Scottish. You would almost think there would be some sort of barrier there that they couldn't quite understand each other for whatever reason, you know, because their backgrounds are just completely different from one another, but it's like they somehow make it work, they somehow fall in love. And yeah, this particular book, their relationship and marriage is just really tested. There's some terrible things that kind of happened to Marley early on, and yeah, they already have quite a number of children at this point in the series, and yeah, there's a lot of strain there with all these children, because they just keep popping out children. And Fergus feeling, you know, all this weight and responsibility, like, oh, I gotta support my family and do all this. But yeah, he's starting to kind of get into that stage of feeling really down and really blue and kind of depressive. And I just really love Fergus and Marley, just the support that they typically have for one another. They're always side by side doing things. They have their trials and tribulations, but they always manage to somehow make it work, and I always root for them. I'm always terrified Diana Gabaldon is going to kill them at some point in the series. I hope she doesn't, because I would be really upset. So yeah, Fergus and Marley, I love them. I wanted to just do a different couple this year instead of you know, picking my typical Outlander couples that I do. Okay, you guys, get ready. My number 2 and my number 1, they both come from the Poldark series. My entire top 5 could have been couples from the Poldark series, you guys. So I managed to narrow it down to 2 couples. So, at number 2, I have Drake and Morwenna from the Poldark series by Winston Graham. Okay, this is what you gotta know about the Poldark series. They take place entirely in Cornwall, England, kind of ranging from about the 1780s through about the 1820s. It kind of ranges from that span of time. So you're spending decades with a lot of these characters and decades with these relationships. So yeah, for number 2, as I mentioned, Drake and Morwenna. Drake is the brother of our leading protagonist, Demelza, and Morwenna is like the cousin of another main character in the story as well. And yet Drake comes from a lowly background. He's poorer. He's not as well educated. And yeah, Morwenna is of the upper class. She's rich and wealthy. But yeah, oh my God, you guys, Drake and Morwenna are like the cutest, most adorable thing you've ever seen in your life. They are just so pure and sweet and innocent. There's nothing negative about their relationship in any form or manner. It's like they are just absolute perfection with one another. Now, of course, I mean, it takes them freaking forever to even finally get together. If you've read the Poldark series, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of stuff that happens between Drake and Morwenna that just keeps deterring them from, like, finally getting together. And there's just a lot of terrible things that happen to both of them in the meantime. And it's such a tragedy sometimes with their 2 characters, because as I mentioned, the 2 of them, even as just individuals, they are just pure innocence and purity and whatnot. And it's a shame when terrible things do happen to them, because they are such good, kind people. And it's like, why did these terrible things happen to them? You know? So I love Drake and Morwenna. Just too adorable and too sweet for words. I love them, you guys. I freaking adore them. So yeah, that leaves me to my number 1, if you've not already guessed it. My number 1, as I mentioned, this is also from Poldark, the Poldark series by Winston Graham, and that is Ross and Demelza. You read this damn series for Ross and Demelza and their very sexy, complicated, complex relationship. Our main character, Ross, he is a war hero. He's come back from the American Revolutionary War where the British have lost, so he's coming back home kind of with that defeat. He's coming back home to reclaim his ancestral home, but it's kind of fallen apart. And he's also coming to reclaim the love of his life, Elizabeth. But unfortunately for Ross Poldark, he discovers that the love of his life, Elizabeth, she's engaged to his cousin Francis. Oh no. So Ross, he's devastated. He's lost his woman. His ancestral home has fallen apart. But eventually he meets Demelza. Demelza, when he first meets her, is a very young girl. It takes a couple years for her to kind of mature, so they are in a proper age range for each other, you guys. But yeah, Demelza is very young. She comes from a very low background. She's initially very poor, very ill-educated, but her and Ross just have this really unique and strange bond with one another that they they can confide in each other, and yeah, it eventually turns into this great romance. And yeah, Ross and Demelza, as I mentioned, they are the reason why you read this series, because they are the two most complex and complicated characters in the entire series. And what I in particular just, as I would read through the 12 books in the series, what was just always so fascinating with Ross and Demelza is that you root for them as a couple. You want them to definitely make things work, you know. But yeah, they're human beings at the end of the day. That's why I like their relationship, is because of how very human and complicated they are. That they have wandering eyes. Every so often the two of them have wandering eyes for other people, especially after they've had some sort of fight or they can't come to some agreement about something, you know. I mean, that's kind of the natural progression sometimes of a marriage. After you've spent a while with somebody, you start kind of thinking about other things and other people sometimes, you know, whether for good, whether for bad, you know, just depends on the relationship. So yeah, Ross and Demelza, they start having wandering eyes for other people over the course of the series. Ross still has his really strong feelings for Elizabeth, who he loved as a teenager and whatnot. So I love Ross and Demelza, just the sheer complexity of their characters, not only as individuals but also as just their relationship and their marriage over the course of the 12 novels. So yeah, and yeah, they have some very sexy moments as well. You guys, if you've seen the TV series, I definitely recommend watching the TV series. If you've not, yeah, a lot of those really sexy moments also appear in the book series, which is nice. So you guys, that is it for my top 5 favorite book couples from the year of 2020. In the comments below, what couples did you guys enjoy from last year? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.